Today we will begin Unit 5 with testing a difference in means. This is the dot plot that we created in Chapter 4 about the runs from all 30 MLB teams in 2008. We now want to do a hypothesis test and use the difference in means. The mean of the AL distribution was 774.6 and the mean of the NL distribution was 733.8. In order to get our test statistic, we will subtract the means AL minus NL. Today we will begin Unit 5 with testing a difference in the AL. This is the dot plot that we created in Chapter 4 about the runs from all 30 MLB teams in 2008. Have the same ability. We now want to do a hypothesis test and use the difference in means. The mean of the AL distribution was 774.6 and the mean of the NL distribution was 733.8. In order to get our test statistic, we will subtract the means AL minus NL. So our HO would be teams in the AL. My HA would be teams in the AL. Have the same ability, have a greater ability. To score runs as teams in the NL, then teams in the NL. My HA would be teams in the AL. My test statistic would be 774.6, have a greater ability, 733.8, which gives me a difference of 40.8. To score runs, here are the results from 100 trials of a simulation. Each dot represents the difference in means from one simulated season. A negative value means that teams in the NL scored more runs on average than did teams in the NL. 774.6. So my p-value had 40.8, and you can see there are only 4 dots greater than 40. Me a difference of 40. So that would be 4 out of 100, or 4%. Since this estimated p-value is very close to a significance level of 0.05, here are the results from 100 trials simulation for 10,000 seasons. Each dot represents to get a better estimate of the p-value from one simulated season. Our conclusion. A negative value means typically that teams in the NL scored more runs on average than the teams in the NL. A small and large chance of occurring. So my p-value had 40.8. So here's a histogram. 4 dots greater than 40 dots to put 10,000 on there. So that would be 4 out of 100, or 4%. So this time they found 521. Since this estimated p-value is very close to a significance level of 0.05, we will repeat the simulation for 10,000 seasons to get a better estimate of the p-value before we make our conclusion, which is going to be, typically we use the significance level of 5% as the boundary between a small and large chance of occurring. So here's a histogram because there would be too many dots to put 10,000 on there. So this time they found 521 it is greater than 5% at a difference, so we failed to reject 8. So that would be 521 divided by 10,000 HO, which is going to be, we do not have convincing evidence, 0.521. Or 5.21%. So this changes our conclusion just a little bit. It is greater than 5%, so we failed to reject. Have a greater ability, HO. We do not have convincing evidence to score runs. Than teams in the NL. that teams in the AL be very careful about labeling what the cause is. Even if we're convinced that teams in the AL have a greater ability to score runs than teams in the NL, this wouldn't prove the presence of the DH is the cause of the increase. It is possible the AL teams place a higher value on offense and NL teams place a higher value on pitching in the NL. Or it's possible the AL teams play in smaller ballparks, which makes it easier to hit home runs. These variables and many others are confounded with the presence of the DH. Be very careful any of these variables about labeling what the cause is. Could be the cause of the difference. Even if we're convinced that teams in the AL have a greater ability to score runs than teams in the NL, home court advantage in the WNBA prove the presence of the DH. We investigated the home field advantage in the NFL. It is possible the AL teams place a higher value on offense and NL teams place a higher value on pitching, win or lose. Or it's possible another way to investigate this issue is by comparing the distributions of numerical value at home and on the road. These variables and many others, such as the number of points confounded with the presence of the DH to score. Any of these variables or a combination of them in the WNBA, the home crowd is usually very vocal in support of the home team, and not so supportive of advantage in the WNBA. Watch in Chapter 2, we investigated the home field advantage in the NFL, so it shouldn't be considering the outcome team allowed fewer points, which is a categorical variable to possible values. Can't you just hear the fans chanting defense? Another way to investigate this issue is by comparing the distributions in the 2008 regular season and by the WNBA's such as the number of points a team allows. So A says graph the two distributions so they're easy to compare and briefly in the WNBA, the home crowd is usually very vocal in support of the home team and not so supportive of the visiting team. Watch the fans as the other team tries to shoot a free throw. So it shouldn't be a surprise if a team allowed fewer points to be scored at home than on the road. It looks like home. Can't you just hear the fans chanting defense, defense? And so here are the points allowed in the 2008 regular season by the WNBA's New York Liberty. It looks like home is slightly skewed graph the two distributions to the right, so they're easy to possible outlier and way out here, what you see. And away is skewed to the left. So I'm going to write it up here. Okay, so if we look at it, it looks like home is skewed, and so is the distribution of the points scored away. It looks like home is slightly skewed to the right with a possible outlier way out here, and away is skewed to the left. So I'm going to write it up here. So we've got shape, we've got our outliers. For our center, it looks like the center of the away distribution is higher than the center of the home distribution. And finally, spread, home has a much larger spread. So we've got shape, we've got our outliers. For our center, it looks like the center of the away distribution is higher than the center of the home distribution. If we wanted to test whether the New York Liberty played better defense at home using the mean points allowed, what hypotheses should we use? And finally, and what is the value of the test statistic? Larger spread. So our HO would be the Liberty had the same ability to play defense at home and on the road. If we wanted to test whether the New York Liberty played better defense at home using the mean points allowed, what hypotheses should we use, and what is the value of the test statistic? So our HO would be the Liberty had the same ability to play defense at home and on the road. Our HA would be the Liberty had a greater ability to play defense at home than on the road. Our HA would be the Liberty had a greater ability to play defense at home than on the road. So our test statistic, you would have to calculate the means for each category. My mean for home is 70.6, and my mean for away is 79.3. So if I do my test statistic, it would be 70.6 minus 79.3, which is negative 8.7. So our test statistic, you would have to calculate the means for each category. How to simulate the distribution of the test statistics is 70. So we are going to take 34 note cards, and my mean for away is 79.3. And write the points allowed. So if I do my test statistic, it would be 70.6 minus 79.3, which is negative 8.7. Explain how to simulate the distribution of the test statistics. And we're going to shuffle. So we're going to take 34 note cards. And write the points allowed on them. 17 for home and 17 for away. Calculate the mean of each pile, and we're going to shuffle and divide them into two piles. Subtract 17 for home and 17 for away. The mean of home minus the mean of away. Plot on a dot plot and repeat many times. Calculate the mean of each pile. Subtract. 100 trials of the simulation were conducted. The mean of home, assuming the Liberty had the same ability to play defense at home and on the road. And the difference in means for each trial was recorded on the dot plot below. Describe what information is provided by the dot plot. So you would say it shows the possible differences . One 100 trials of the simulation were conducted, assuming the Liberty had the same ability to play defense at home and on the road. And the difference in means for each trial was recorded on the dot plot below. Home minus away. Describe what information is provided by the dot plot. So you would say it shows the possible differences. The Liberty had the same ability. And mean points allowed to play defense. And make sure you put how you're subtracting. So this would be home minus away. Assuming by random chance. The Liberty had the same ability. Based on the results of the simulation, estimate and interpret the p-value. We had negative 8.7, and this is really important. If you get a negative value, in this case, home minus away, we want home to be greater, so our value will be negative. You are going to read to the left. Don't read to the right and tell me it's 99 because that would be wrong. So my p-value is 1 out of 100. Based on the results of the simulation, estimate and interpret the p-value. We had negative 8.7. We would say, and this is really important. If you get a negative value, assuming the Liberty, in this case, home minus away, we want home to be greater, so our value will be negative. The same ability. You are going to read to the left. Don't read to the right and tell me it's 99 because that would be wrong. So my p-value to play defense is 1 out of 100, or 0.01, or 1%, at home and on the road, you like to write it. So interpret, we would say, assuming the Liberty, we would expect a difference, had the same ability, to play defense of negative 8.7 or less. Make sure you go the appropriate direction, on the road, don't say or greater. 1% of the time by random chance. We would expect a difference of negative 8.7 or based less. On your p-value, make an appropriate direction, don't say or greater. If your conclusion is an error, 1% of what type of error did you make? So our conclusion with 1% would be we failed to reject HO. I'm sorry. It would be we reject HO. Based on your p-value, make an appropriate conclusion. If your conclusion is an error, what type of error did you make? We have convincing evidence. So our conclusion with 1% would be we failed to reject HO. That's the Liberty. It would be we reject HO. Had a greater ability to play defense. We have convincing evidence at home than on the road. That the Liberty had a greater ability. If we made an error, it would be a type 1 error. And explain, we would just say, we said the Liberty than on the road. Had a greater ability to play defense. If we made an error, it would be at home than on the road, a type 1 error. And explain, we would just say, we said the Liberty, but in reality it was the same. had a greater ability to play defense at home than on the road, but in reality it was the same.